As the moon drifts above France, its light spills softly over cobblestone streets, sleeping villages, and the ruins of forgotten castles. The air carries the scent of rain and memory. Tonight, we wander through a land where history breathes beneath the earth and whispers linger in candlelit halls. From the depths of the Paris Catacombs to the lonely towers of ancient chateaux, let us listen gently to the ghosts of France, not in fear, but in wonder, as they murmur their stories through the silence of the night. Story 1. The Paris Catacombs, Paris. Beneath the bustling streets of Paris, where cafes hum with soft laughter and the Seine glimmers under moonlight, lies another city, one built of silence, bone, and candlelight. The catacombs stretch for miles, a labyrinth carved deep into the limestone heart of the earth. Here, walls are not made of stone, but of skulls carefully stacked. Row upon row, their hollow eyes gazing into eternal night. You can almost feel the air change as you descend. The warmth of the city fades, replaced by a stillness that breathes like the sea. Every drip of water echoes endlessly, as though the tunnels themselves are sighing. This place was never meant for the living, yet the living come out of curiosity, reverence, or something deeper they cannot name. 2 centuries ago, when overcrowded cemeteries overflowed and the dead had no rest, Paris began moving its departed here. Bones were carried through the night, priests murmuring blessings as lanterns flickered through fog. Those who worked the transfer whispered that the city seemed lighter after each journey, as though its sorrow was slowly being carried underground. And yet, not everything that went down was forgotten. There are tales of those who entered and never returned, explorers lost among the endless corridors, their voices fading into the stone. Some say that after midnight, if you walk the tunnels alone, you might hear faint footsteps behind you. They never grow closer, nor fade away, just steady, patient echoes, following your every turn. Once, a man named Philibert Aspert, a doorkeeper from the Val-de-Grâce hospital, vanished after venturing inside with a single candle. 11 years later, his body was found, not far from an exit, still clutching his ring of keys. They buried him there, beneath the walls of the dead, and to this day, visitors leave flowers beside his grave. When the candlelight flickers strangely near that spot, guides lower their voices, saying softly, "He's still finding his way home." The catacombs are peaceful now, open to those who move quietly and listen. The air is cool, scented faintly of earth and history. You might feel a whisper brush your neck, not a warning, but a welcome. For beneath Paris, where millions sleep in silence, the living and the dead share the same hush. And when you climb back into the night, the city feels different. The lights are warmer, the streets more alive, as if Paris herself exhales, relieved that you came back from the deep. If you listen closely, even above ground, the faint hum of the catacombs remains a reminder that below every heartbeat of the living, the past still stirs, quietly, beneath the cobblestones. Story 2. Château de Brissac, Maine-et-Loire. In the Loire Valley, where rivers wander through vineyards and morning mist settles gently over the fields, stands the Château de Brissac, tall, golden, and hauntingly beautiful. Its towers rise above the trees like sentinels of an older world, one that remembers both grandeur and grief. Locals call it the Giant of the Loire, for it is the tallest chateau in France. Yet for all its beauty, it is said to keep a secret one that drifts through its halls in quiet sorrow. Long ago, in the 15th century, the castle belonged to Château de Brissac, a nobleman whose temper was as fierce as his pride. His wife, Charlotte de Valois, said to be gentle and radiant, found little joy in his company. When her heart strayed toward another, fate turned cruel. One night, when the moonlight fell pale through the chamber windows, Jacques discovered her betrayal. By morning, the castle's corridors were filled with whispers of what he had done. They say her spirit never left those halls. She is called La Dame Verte, the Green Lady, named for the shimmering hue of the gown she wore the night she died. Visitors claim to see her wandering the upper floors, her form bathed in a soft emerald glow, her face hidden as though veiled in sorrow. Sometime, when the castle is still, a faint sound echoes from the chapel, a quiet sob, or the rustle of silk against stone. Those who have stayed overnight speak of strange awakenings. Doors creak open though no wind moves. A scent of old perfume lingers in the dark. One guest described waking to find a faint figure standing near the canopy bed, her head bowed, whispering words too soft to understand. When he lit a candle, she was gone, but the air trembled like the moment after a prayer. The current Duke of Brissac, who still lives within the chateau, treats the haunting with gentle respect. She is family, he once said, his voice calm and knowing. And so the Green Lady is left in peace. No exorcism, no denial, only acceptance, as though her sorrow has become part of the house itself. If you ever walk through the gardens at dawn, you might see her reflected faintly in the windows, a soft outline, gazing toward the horizon. The dew sparkles like tears upon the grass, and for a moment, the castle seems to breathe again, remembering her story. In Château de Brissac, beauty and grief coexist, woven together through time. The laughter of guests, the clinking of glasses, and beneath it all, the faint echo of a woman who once loved and lost within its walls. Beyond the gardens, the river flows quietly, carrying her memory toward the sea. And if you pause by the water's edge, you might just feel a cool breeze brush your cheek as if she has passed by, still searching for forgiveness, still wrapped in her gown of green. Story 3, Palace of Versailles, Versailles. At first glance, Versailles glows with the light of perfection, marble corridors, golden gates, and gardens that stretch like dreams beneath the dawn. But when the tourists leave and the fountains fall silent, the palace breathes differently. Its vast halls remember centuries of footsteps, laughter, and whispers too heavy to fade. You walk through the Hall of Mirrors, where chandeliers hang like frozen constellations. Your reflection shimmers endlessly along the glass, but for a moment, it isn't alone. A figure, dressed in the powdered finery of another age, seems to drift past behind you. The scent of roses lingers, delicate and old. When you turn, only the candlelight moves. This was once the world of Louis the XIV, the Sun King, whose brilliance filled every room with spectacle and pride. Yet beneath that splendor, the palace knew sorrow, the echoes of revolution, of vanished nobility, of secrets carried through gilded corridors at midnight, still move unseen beneath its painted ceilings. Many tell of Marie Antoinette, who roams the gardens near the Petit Trianon, the little retreat she loved, away from the politics of court. They say she appears not as a queen, but as a woman lost in time, tending to her roses. Witnesses have described her in a white muslin gown, her face serene, as if unaware of the centuries that have passed. One afternoon in 1901, two English women claimed they had wandered into another era, seeing the Queen herself sketching quietly by the Temple of Love. When they returned to the main path, the air shifted, modern voices returned, and the vision was gone. Others have felt a cool presence within the royal apartments. A chair moves by itself. Curtains stir, though the air is still. Musicians have reported faint harpsichord notes drifting from empty salons, the melody trembling like a ghost's breath upon the strings. But Versailles does not feel cursed, only heavy with remembrance. Each shadow holds memory, each echo a trace of a life once lived beneath gold and candlelight. The ghosts here are elegant and patient, walking where they always have, in rooms that have never forgotten them. When you step onto the terrace at night, the gardens stretch before you like a sea of silver. The wind carries a faint rustle, like the brush of silk skirts across marble floors. Somewhere in the darkness, a soft voice murmurs, half laughter, half longing, perhaps a queen recalling her youth, or a servant still waiting for dawn. You close your eyes, and the sounds of modern life fade, replaced by the delicate rhythm of a bygone court, the soft applause, the whisper of a violin, the faint echo of 1,000 candles breathing their last. And in that moment, you understand why the ghosts of Versailles never left. For beauty like this fleeting, fragile, and eternal cannot simply end. It lingers, shimmering quietly between centuries, as the palace continues its endless dream. Story 4, Mont Saint-Michel, Normandie. Rising from the mist like a vision from another world, Mont Saint-Michel stands where the sea and the sky seem to meet, an island fortress, a monastery, a dream carved in stone. When the tide retreats, a silvery plain of sand stretches endlessly toward the horizon. When it returns, the water surrounds the island so swiftly that it feels alive, breathing with the rhythm of the moon. As twilight deepens, the abbey bells toll faintly across the waves. The sound drifts through the narrow, winding streets, echoing off the old stone walls. By day, Mont Saint-Michel is filled with footsteps and voices. By night, it belongs to the wind, the gulls, and the whispers of monks long gone. The island has been a place of worship for over 1,000 years. It is said that in the 8th century, Archangel Michael appeared to Saint Aubert, instructing him to build a sanctuary atop the rocky mount. But Aubert hesitated until... Legend says the archangel pressed his finger into the bishop's skull to make his command known. The mark remains, they say, on Aubert's preserved skull to this day, a reminder that divine will leaves traces even in bone. Many who visit Mont Saint-Michel speak of a feeling, a quiet awe, mixed with something they can't quite name. As the fog rolls in, the boundaries of earth and heaven blur. Shadows move along the cloisters when no one walks there. Lanterns sway faintly, though no hand touches them. Some have heard chanting low, solemn, ancient, rising from the abbey long after midnight, when the church is locked and empty. There are stories of monks still keeping their eternal vigil, their hooded forms gliding through corridors lit by invisible candles. A lone pilgrim once claimed to see a procession crossing the causeway at dawn, robes fluttering in the sea breeze. When he called out, the figures vanished into the mist, leaving only footprints that dissolved with the tide. And sometimes, when the storm clouds gather and lightning flashes over the bay, the great archangel himself is said to be seen upon the highest spire wings of light unfurled against the darkness, guarding the mount as he always has. Yet not all the spirits here are divine. In the crypts beneath the abbey, where prisoners were once kept during the French Revolution, some claim to hear chains rattling faintly against the walls. A sense of waiting lingers, not anger, but the echo of those who could not leave when the sea closed in. Still, Mont Saint-Michel is a place of peace. Its ghosts are quiet, contemplative guardians of memory rather than of fear. Standing at the edge of the ramparts, you can feel centuries of devotion and solitude wash through you. The salt air carries both prayers and sighs, mingled together like sea foam. As dawn breaks, the tide returns, surrounding the island once more. The waves gleam gold under the rising sun, and for a moment, it feels as though the entire mount is floating between worlds, between time, between the living and the remembered. And if you listen, you may still hear it, the distant murmur of monks chanting for souls long at rest, their voices rising softly above the tide, carried forever by the wind. Story 5. Père Lachaise Cemetery, Paris. At the eastern edge of Paris, beyond the hum of cafes and the glow of the Seine, lies a city of the departed Père Lachaise Cemetery. It is vast and quiet, a labyrinth of moss-covered tombs and leaning angels. Cobbled paths wind beneath ancient chestnut trees, where leaves fall like forgotten letters. Here, the living walk softly, and the dead keep their counsel. The cemetery was founded in 1804, named after the confessor of King Louis XIV, Père François de Lachaise. But it became more than a resting place. It became a world of memories, a museum of silence. Over 1 million souls sleep here, poets, painters, revolutionaries, lovers, dreamers. The marble crypts stand shoulder to shoulder like the streets of a sleeping city. When dusk falls, the air grows still, and the last rays of sunlight scatter through the trees, gilding the angel's wings. Somewhere, a blackbird calls once, then no more. That's when the whispers begin, not loud enough to frighten, just a soft murmur, as though the stones themselves are remembering. Some visitors come to see the famous names. Jim Morrison's grave, forever surrounded by flowers and quiet devotion. Oscar Wilde's monument, kissed so many times that the stone once turned rosy. Edith Piaf, whose voice still seems to echo faintly through the air when the wind passes a certain way. But those who linger longer say there is something else, a feeling, a hush, as if unseen eyes follow from beneath the ivy. Caretakers have told stories of figures gliding between the mausoleums at twilight shapes that fade when approached. leaving only the scent of old perfume or tobacco. A young woman once claimed she heard a piano playing somewhere beyond sight, a soft, broken melody that led her through winding paths until it suddenly stopped. When she looked around, she found herself beside the grave of Frédéric Chopin. Some speak of a man in a black coat who appears near the Mur des Fédérés, the wall where 147 revolutionaries were executed in 1871. He stands with his hat in hand, head bowed, then vanishes when the clock in the distance strikes midnight. Those who have seen him describe not terror, but sorrow, as though he's still keeping vigil for his fallen comrades. Yet Père Lachaise is not a place of fear. It is strangely comforting, like an old song hummed in the dark. The air is thick with stories, but they rest gently upon the heart. Even the ravens seem to caw more softly here, as though respectful of the dreams buried beneath their wings. If you walk to the highest terrace just before dawn, you can see Paris awakening, smoke rising, bells tolling, the faint glow of life returning. And down below, in the cemetery's endless rows, the spirits seem to sigh not in sadness, but in peace. In Père Lachaise, death is not an ending, but a continuation, a quieter chapter in the book of human longing. You feel it in the breeze, in the way the trees bend as if listening. And as you leave it, you may catch yourself looking back, half expecting to see someone watching from among the tombs, a poet, perhaps, or a ghost who never learned how to say goodbye. Story 6, Château de Châteaubriand, Brittany. In the quiet town of Chateaubriand, where old stone bridges cross misty rivers and the air carries the scent of rain, stands a castle wrapped in sorrow, the Château de Châteaubriand. Its towers rise above the countryside, their reflection trembling softly in the water below. By day, it is beautiful. By night, it becomes something else entirely, a place where love once bloomed and died beneath a cloak of secrecy. The story begins in the year 1537 when Françoise de Foix, a lady of grace and wit, lived here with her husband, Jean de Laval. She was the mistress of King Francis I, and for a time, her beauty was whispered about throughout France. But when the king's attention faded, she returned to her husband's castle and to his silence. No one knows exactly what happened behind those high stone walls. Some say jealousy consumed Jean de Laval. Others say it was grief. But one autumn night, Françoise was found dead in her chambers, her body pale, her face serene, as though she had simply fallen asleep. The official story was illness. The townspeople whispered otherwise. They said the Count had locked her away, and her spirit never truly left the room where her heart stopped beating. Centuries later, her ghost still walks those halls. Every year, Pomum. On the anniversary of her death, the night of October 16th, the castle awakens. Servants of the past are heard moving along the corridors, their footsteps soft and measured. The sound of hooves echo through the courtyard, though the gates remain closed. Then, as midnight approaches, Françoise herself is said to appear. She descends the grand staircase, wearing a gown of shimmering white satin, her hair woven with pearls. Her face is calm, her eyes distant, as if seeing both the past and the present at once. Those who have witnessed her say that she walks slowly, pausing at the window overlooking the courtyard, the very place, they believe, where she last looked upon the world, and then she fades, leaving behind a faint scent of lilies. Even those who do not see her feel something on that night, a chill in the air, a weight upon the silence. Local families have kept the tradition of lighting a single candle in their windows, a gesture of remembrance for the lady who died for love. By day, the chateau is serene, its walls bathed in sunlight, its gardens alive with color. But when dusk falls and the wind carries the sound of the church bell from the village, the air seems to tremble. The castle remembers. The stones breathe her name. If you ever find yourself there on an October evening, you might stand by the gate as the fog drifts in. You might hear the faint rustle of silk above the courtyard, or catch the glimmer of white passing by a window. And you'll understand that in Chateaubriand, love does not end, it lingered quietly, like perfume on the air, long after the candle burns out. And when the night deepens, the castle settles once more into its silence, keeping its secrets, its grief, and its ghost, locked tenderly within its walls. Story 7, Notre-Dame Cathédrale, Paris. In the heart of Paris, where the Seine curls like a ribbon of silver beneath the bridges, stands Notre-Dame, timeless, wounded, eternal. Its towers reach toward the heavens, its bells once calling all of Paris to prayer. Even after the great fire of 2019, the cathedral breathes, alive with memory. By day, sunlight streams through the stained glass like colored whispers. By night, shadows gather where centuries of prayer still linger. Notre Dame is not merely a building, it is a soul carved in stone. Its gargoyles stare down from their ledges, silent guardians who have watched kings rise and revolutions fall. And though millions have walked its aisles, few leave without feeling something, a soft stirring in the air, as though unseen eyes follow from the darkened chapels. They say that those who listen closely can still hear the cathedral's ghosts, not in voices, but in the way the air moves. Among them is a figure known as the bell ringer. Centuries before Victor Hugo immortalized him in his story, there was indeed a man who lived among the bells. His name was lost to time, but his devotion was not. He was said to have died while tending to the great Emmanuel bell, his body later found beneath the ropes, his hands still wrapped in the fabric that had carried his faith to the sky. Even now, on some quiet nights, when the moon drifts above the spire, faint tolls echo from within, though no ringer stands at the ropes. The sound is soft, hesitant, as if the bells themselves remember him. Others speak of a woman in black who kneels before the altar long after closing. The caretakers have seen her, a graceful figure, her veil drawn low, her hands clasped in prayer. When approached, she fades, leaving behind the faint scent of candle wax and rosewater. Some believe she is the spirit of a mother who sought sanctuary here during the siege of Paris, her child lost in the chaos of war. She comes not to haunt, but to remember. During the reconstruction after the fire, workers claimed that tools went missing only to reappear days later, perfectly arranged. Lights flickered in the upper gallery, though no one was there. A mason once said he felt a hand upon his shoulder, gentle, guiding, as if the cathedral itself were helping him heal what time and flame had broken. Notre Dame does not frighten. She soothes. Her ghosts are gentle, bound by devotion rather than despair. In the quiet, they are the sigh of the choir stalls, the hush of candles before dawn, the soft flutter of wings high in the rafters. Stand before her when the city sleeps, and you will feel it, the pulse beneath the stone, the breath of centuries still exhaling through the rose windows. The Seine murmurs below, and the bells, silent now, seem to listen. For in Notre Dame, faith and sorrow are intertwined. Every prayer ever whispered still lingers somewhere between her walls, and every spirit she holds remains a note in her endless hymn, a melody that even fire could not silence. And as the wind moves through her broken towers, it carries something soft, not mourning, but endurance, the voice of a soul that refuses to fade. Story 8, Château de Brissac, Brittany. Deep in the heart of Brittany, surrounded by a forest that smells of pine and rain, stands the Château de Brissac. Its gray stone walls rise directly from the surface of a still, dark moat, so perfectly reflected that it seems the castle floats upon the water. In the soft light of dawn, mist drifts across its turrets like breath, and the air holds the hush of a place that remembers too much. The story told here is one of sorrow, a bridal tale that never reached its altar. Centuries ago, the Lord of Brissac looked out from his window one morning and saw something strange, a mound of fresh earth beside the moat, and two shadowed figures kneeling there, hidden behind the trees. He watched as they lowered a woman into the ground, a woman dressed in a bridal gown of white lace and pearls. Her hands were bound, her face serene, her veil trailing like moonlight. Before he could act, the figures vanished into the forest, swallowed by fog. The Lord had her exhumed, hoping to save her, but it was too late. She had been buried alive. No one knew her name. Some whispered she was the daughter of a noble family punished for a love forbidden. Others said she was wed in secret, and those who discovered her vows sought to erase her entirely. Whatever the truth, her spirit remains the bride of Brissac. They call her. On moonlit nights, travelers claim to see her rise from the misty waters, her gown trailing with droplets that shimmer like tears. She walks the ground silently, pausing by the edge of the moat, her gaze fixed upon the reflection of the castle as though searching for the life she never lived. Her beauty is said to be otherworldly, but there is no joy in it, only longing. Those who have stayed within the castle walls tell of hearing soft footsteps across the wooden floors when the night is stillest. Doors open without wind. In the courtyard, a scent of lilies appears and fades. Once, a caretaker swore he saw her standing beneath the window of the bridal chamber, looking upward not at him, but at the stars. The people of the nearby village speak of her gently. No one fears her. They light candles in their windows on certain nights, offering her warmth she never received in life. Some brides who marry in Brittany still visit the castle before their wedding day, leaving a white flower by the water as a wish for protection, a quiet prayer that love will not end in silence. When morning comes, the mist begins to lift. The castle's reflection shivers in the water. And for a fleeting instant, another face seems to appear pale, wistful, framed by a bridal veil. Then it fades as the first sunlight touches the stones, The Château de Brissac remains one of the most peaceful places in France. Its ghost neither cruel nor vengeful, but eternal, bound not by hatred, but by love unfinished. And as you walk away, through the forest heavy with dew, the wind seems to carry a whisper soft, almost kind, remember me. Storyjoie, Montségur Castle, Occitanie. High in the Pyrenees, where clouds drift low enough to brush the mountain tops, the ruins of Montségur cling to a lonely peak. The wind here never rests. It sighs through the broken archways and whispers across the stone like a prayer half forgotten. To stand upon this mountain is to stand between worlds where faith, tragedy, and eternity all converge. Montségur was once the last stronghold of the Cathars, a spiritual sect who sought purity and peace in a violent age. In the 13th century, they were declared heretics, hunted by the armies of the Inquisition. For months they held this fortress, surrounded, starving, yet unbroken. And when the walls finally fell in 1244, more than 200 Cathars walked willingly into the flames rather than betray their beliefs. The wind that moves across this mountain, they say, still carries their final hymn. Visitors often describe Montségur as hauntingly serene. The ruins are simple, only fragments of towers and walls, yet they seem alive, as if the stones themselves are listening. Climb the winding path that leads to the top, and you will hear nothing but your own heartbeat and the murmur of the wind. Then sometimes faint voices seem to join it, not sharp or fearful, but distant, like a choir carried through centuries. At dusk, when the sky turns violet and the valleys fill with mist, the castle feels closer to heaven than earth. Shadows gather at the edges of the courtyard where the Cathars once prayed. Some have seen flickers of light, tiny, golden sparks hovering above the ground, believed to be the souls of those who perished, still glowing with devotion. Others have felt a sudden warmth, a pressure on the heart, as if unseen hands were guiding them toward stillness. There are no angry ghosts here, only faith turned into memory. Even those who come expecting sorrow often find peace instead. The mountain does not mourn, it remembers quietly, with dignity. Local legends tell that on midsummer nights, a figure cloaked in white walks along the ridge, holding a small flame that never dies. She is said to be Esclarmonde de Foix, a noblewoman and Cathar believer who vanished before the final siege. Some say she ascended into light, others that she still guards the place she loved. Her presence is gentle, her steps silent, as she watches over the ruins until dawn. If you spend the night near Montségur, you may wake to hear the sound of chanting far below in the valley, voices rising and falling with the wind, just as they did long ago. The melody carries no fear, only a longing for forgiveness, for understanding, for peace. When morning comes, the sun spills over the peaks, painting the ruins gold. The air feels different, lighter, almost sacred. Standing there, you can sense the endurance of the human spirit and how belief, even in the face of fire, can outlast centuries of silence. Montségur remains both wound and sanctuary, a reminder that some lights never truly go out. They simply rise, like the morning mist, to live forever in the sky. Story 10. Château de Puy-Martin, Dordogne. In the heart of the Dordogne, Hidden among quiet woods and golden fields, stands the Château de Brissac, its gray towers rising gently above the treetops like a memory half remembered. The air here feels thick with time. Ivy curls up the walls. The windows glimmer faintly in the dusk, as though the castle itself is watching. It is said that within these walls lives La Dame Blanche, the White Lady, whose story is both tender and tragic. Her name was Thérèse de Saint-Clar. In the 16th century, while her husband fought in distant wars, she found herself drawn to another, a knight whose laughter softened her loneliness. Their secret meetings filled the castle with quiet joy until one night they were discovered. Her husband returned unexpectedly, furious and heartbroken. The legend says he imprisoned Thérèse within a small, dark room in the North Tower, a cell without warmth or light. There, she remained for years, her only companion the faint wind through the shutters and the sound of her own heart echoing against the stone. When she died, her body was sealed within the walls. And though the centuries have passed, the room still exists locked, untouched, as though waiting for forgiveness. Those who have stayed at Puy-Martin tell of strange occurrences when the night deepens. Footsteps on the staircase when no one is there. A soft rustle of skirts brushing past in the corridor. Doors that open gently, as if by unseen hands. Some guests have seen her, a faint, graceful figure gliding through the tower hallways, dressed in white, her face serene and luminous, her eyes filled with distant sadness. The caretakers of the castle say she appears most often on quiet evenings, just after sunset, when the last light fades from the trees. She walks slowly toward the window of her old room, gazing out at the forests she once longed to escape. Then she vanishes, leaving behind a scent of lavender, the same perfume, they say, she wore in life. Yet her presence does not bring fear. It feels like a sigh, gentle, wistful, familiar, as if she walks not to haunt, but to remember what love once was. Even the local villagers speak of her with affection. They leave white flowers at the gate each spring, whispering her name like a prayer for mercy. By daylight, Puy-Martin is bright and tranquil. Sunlight spills through the courtyards, and swallows nest beneath the eaves. Children's laughter sometimes echoes through the grounds, and for a moment, the centuries dissolve. But when the moon rises, the castle becomes a mirror of its past, each shadow a story, each breath of wind a voice softly retelling it. If you stand in the courtyard at midnight, you might see her reflection in the window above, pale, calm, endlessly waiting. And as the night deepens, it feels as though the whole castle exhales, whispering her tale once more before falling back into stillness. Here, love did not end, it transformed, lingering like a faint melody in stone. And somewhere within these walls, the White Lady of Puy-Martin walks still, not as a ghost to be feared, but as a memory too gentle to fade. Now the night grows quiet again. The wind softens, the bells fall silent, and the stories settle like dust upon ancient floors. Across France, the echoes of the past rest once more beneath stone, beneath candlelight, beneath centuries of dreams. Sleep well, dear listener. May the whispers fade, and the world drift into peace until our next haunting.